All right, back, folks, with the Stan Simpson Show. He is a 6-time Connecticut Sportscaster of the Year, a regular contributor. Scott Gray, WTIC News Talk 1080. UConn basketball, big news now. The continuing saga, NCAA investigations. They're coming clean now with what they're going to present to the NCAA on Friday. A whole contingent went down there. But this was kind of a preemptive strike. They fell on their sword on some areas, but they say, you know what, the one thing we won't concede is that Jim Calhoun ran a loose program, so to speak. Your thoughts on that?
Well, the one thing is, the contradiction is they did admit to the allegations of a lack of institutional control of the program.
Although they aren't conceding that, though. They're saying they gave away too many tickets, too many text messages, and too many phone calls, right?
And that there was an atmosphere of noncompliance, but that Jim Calhoun had nothing to do with any of that. And the problem that not just myself, but I know that other people have, is who's in charge here. Somewhere along the line, the buck has to stop. Now, you have a guy who's taking credit for all the wins. You've had to have a guy who is in the Hall of Fame. You have a guy who takes credit for all the success stories, but the minute something goes wrong, it's almost like he had no idea what was going on within the program.
What's the harm in saying, if you're Jim Calhoun, listen, the buck stops here? And I think you did say this earlier when this thing started. What's wrong with saying, as UConn, the buck stops there? He's a head coach. This hasn't been a pattern. He's been there for 25 years.
Right.
And taking your hit and moving on. There's clearly a concerted effort to distance the coach from that. Why not go ahead and just say, yes, of course he's the point guy. He takes the fall for this.
Right. There were problems. I have to accept responsibility for those problems. I even have to accept some of the blame for those problems. The guy at the core of all this is a kid named Nate Miles. The investigation all started over the recruitment of Nate Miles. Were there problems in the recruiting? Obviously, there was illegal contact. There was a lot of illegal contact, and some of it is directly attributed to Jim Calhoun. It directly goes right back to Jim Calhoun because many of the calls were made from his cell phone. And I would find it hard to believe that somebody else was using his cell phone. When Nate Miles was expelled from UConn, he went to a junior college out west. The junior college coach said that after Miles arrived there, Calhoun continued efforts to recruit him, get him back into the program at UConn. So there are a lot of contradictions here that have to be worked out. Did this happen? Didn't this happen? The NCAA is going to go into all of this. The NCAA is going to continue questioning them about all of this. And the NCAA, one of the things that they're going to look at is they're going to look at the internal sanctions that the university imposed on the program.
Let's talk about that now. Okay. A couple things happened there, right? They 2 years probation, so which really means nothing.
Right. It's just we're going to keep our nose clean for 2 years.
Right. Lose one scholarship per year. Instead of 13 scholarships, go to 12.
Right.
Right.
And this is a program that's averaged 12 and a half scholarships for Calhoun's years anyway. So at least half of those years, he's only had 12 scholarships anyway. So it's not like you're really taking anything away from the program.
So the most impressive thing to me, if I'm the NCAA, the thing that really rings home to me, we got rid of 2 of our coaches. You want to call them fired, quit? They dismissed 2 coaches. That's huge for a basketball program like a UConn. Is that going to be a compelling storyline for NCAA? We got rid of 2 coaches.
I think the NCAA is going to look at that and investigate, were these guys scapegoats? Were these the only guys who did anything wrong?
But in that way, we all know, let's cut to the chase. We know that when something like this happens, Pat Sellers and Bo Archibald aren't going to be spared here, right? They're not making the money. They're not the driving force. And if we talk playing here, guy to guy, someone has to take the fall. And it's not going to be Jim Calhoun. So someone's got to take the fall. And these 2 took the fall, right?
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I didn't know Bo Archibald that well. Pat Sellers I have known for years.
Right, nice guy.
Central Connecticut, terrific guy, very conscientious guy, and a very honest guy. And
which doesn't mean he didn't make a lot of phone calls, but it means that when push comes to shove, if there are 4 coaches and you have to lose 2 of them, Jim Calhoun won't be one of them, right?
Right. Oh, well.
So pick 2, Jim.
The history of college basketball coaches. I mean, you look around. John Calipari. A classic example. Bruce Pearl at Tennessee. The first thing they do is they insulate themselves.
Right.
They make sure there are layers around them that can be expelled, ejected, whatever, before it gets down to them.
And if you're the assistant coach, you understand that, right? You go in there, you understand that something goes down.
But it's not just the assistant coaches. It can be your academic advisor. I know one academic advisor who left the University of Connecticut men's basketball program because he felt there were going to be problems and he would be the scapegoat. And he didn't want that on his resume. Mm-hmm. So he left the men's basketball program before anything happened. And, this goes back a ways.
So what do you think happens then? Because
I'm not sure that the NCAA is going to buy this. The other part of the sanction, the internal sanction.
What part will they buy, you think?
Well, I don't think they're going to buy any of the sanctions, to be honest with you. I think they're going to look at this as a slap on the wrist in an effort to avoid anything more serious. But basically, you do have, like you say, 2 years probation. That's a slap on the wrist. Taking away a scholarship that half the time they didn't use anyway.
Right.
That's no penalty at all. Limiting recruiting to just 2 coaches recruiting off campus. Well, George Blaney never recruits off campus anyway.
So it's too soft in 15 seconds. So basically you're saying they may see it as too soft, although I do think getting rid of 2 coaches is a pretty big deal, although you're saying they may look at that and say, was that justified? But
was
end
it
of the day,
justified?
they've heard their program.
And the other sanctions that that have been sanctioned internally, I think they're going to look at it like it's no sanction at all. And there's going to have to be something more serious here.
So more scholarships.
I would think you're probably going to see at least 1 more scholarship per year taken away, and maybe they go even further than that. Maybe they put even tighter restrictions on recruiting.
Because real quick, the track record has been good. That has to be considered also, 25 years, and you have to look at it in context. But let's move on to the Husky run. They had that this week.
Don't forget, there was the incident when the NCAA beefed up its enforcement and investigative arms back at the end of the last century. There was the incident where 2 UConn players were involved with an agent taking airline tickets from an agent. So it's not like it has been squeaky clean.
Okay.
And it's not like there has never been anything happened in this program before.
Looking forward, you have the Midnight Madness on Friday. Husky runs, men and women now kick the season off. Real quick, what's this look like, snapshot for this year's men's basketball team in about 5 seconds?
Obviously rebuilding for the men's basketball team. For the women's basketball team, we spent the whole summer with visions of another national championship, but I'll tell you what, the loss of Caroline Doty is going to hurt this team badly. I like Tiffany Hayes a lot, but she's not a true point guard. They're going to have to put in a freshman point guard. It's the most difficult thing to do in college basketball is win a national championship with a freshman point guard. Losing Caroline Doty is really going to hurt this team.
All right. We'll have him back again when the season kicks off. He's Scott Gray. When we come back, we'll have Walk Talk with our entertainment attorney, James Walker. Why is Tony Braxton broke again? And what is the secret to Mary J. Blige's staying power? You are watching The Stan Simpson Show.